You did everything right, so why does it still feel off? Today is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. Thanks for joining again. I'm joined today by Andrea Wanerstrand, the Mindset Maven. I connected with you about a month ago, and since then we've had a few calls, and every time we've jumped on the calls, the conversation has been so phenomenal that we decided that we have to record this and put it out in the world because there's just a lot of value in our conversations and what we kind of talk about. But I'm going to allow you the opportunity to kind of introduce yourself. I'm sure you're going to do a much better job at it than I do for the listeners. And then we're going to start talking about some of the biggest things that so many people are going through right now, how we got out of them, and how we help our clients get out of these situations as well. So please, Andrea, please introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you, Arian. Yes, it was the mutual appreciation of that neuroscience and behavioral strategy, but also authenticity. And I had the opportunity to hear you speak. You and I chatted, and there's so much great alignment. A little bit about me: I spent 25 years in working in multinationals for a few companies, such as the Microsofts, the Metas, the T-Mobiles in my career. And I really focused on leadership and leader performance strategy with global sales teams. And so I've had the honor of working across four continents, 100 plus countries. And while that's all great experience and insight, it also took me those 25 years to really get aligned for my authentic self. And about 4 years ago, I left corporate America and I started a company called A3 Culture Lab. And I do a lot of public speaking and work with individuals as a coach on being authentic and having autonomous teams that have accountability. I also founded Mindset Maven Lab, and that's where we really look at concepts such as our inner work of our mindset, our confidence, our agility and resilience in life. And that's where all this just so aligned with everything you do as the mindset mentor. And I was like, I had to have this conversation. So I'm excited to be here with you today.
Well, thanks for joining. Yeah, once we realized as well, I call myself the mindset mentor, which is what the podcast is called as well. And you're the mindset maven. And in that moment, there was like, whoa, this is, this is cool. Like, we need to do something with this. Um, but the conversations we've had, there's been so many similarities. Like you said, so much alignment. One of the things that we talked about that I believe we need to talk about more is burnout in
Mm-hmm.
terms of not just what it is, but how people are experiencing it, why they're experiencing it, what it means. For myself, there's no better way to learn something than to go through it yourself. So I always give the example, I can never teach anyone something if I don't go through it myself. You know, you can't learn how to ride a bike and teach it if you're just reading a book. You have to actually get on the bike and ride it yourself in order to teach it. And when I went through burnout, that was one of the most frustrating times in my life. The most just there was no clarity. There was so much cloudy kind of vision. Everything was led with fear. It wasn't a good experience at all. And if you're in that place, if you're struggling with burnout, there is a way out. And what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to talk in the depths, to the depths as much as we can from both of our personal experiences to be able to steer you in the right direction to be able to come out of that. I know you've mentioned a few times, Andrea, your experience with burnout. What is it that you kind of went through, and what did you learn along the way, and essentially, how did you get out of it?
Yeah. And I took it to an extreme in 2017 to the point where I hospitalized myself from exhaustion, and my health was really super poor. So I had to take an extended leave of absence that year. The thing is that like all high achievers, everything on the outside looked pretty great, right? I had the house in the right neighborhood. I had this wonderful family that I'd created. I had a great global job. I had the income coming in. I had the prestige. I'd created a great career. And yet something was off. It was I was never good enough for myself. And I felt like I was only as good as the last thing that I did in the work environment. So I was always on. I did have a global role at the time at the organization that I worked for. So there was an expectation of me being available at certain times of the day and night. But I took it to an extreme. And it was this constant on, and I'm never good enough. And it was really centered in a lot of limiting beliefs that I just didn't have the awareness of yet. And so that burnout state, I believe we often do to ourselves more than the environment that we're in. It's a contributor, don't get me wrong, but we often do it more. And I had a lot of self inner work that I needed to do in order to get to where I'm at today, where burnout and I know each other and I can see the indication of burnout coming, but I don't let burnout actually arrive in my life anymore.
Yeah. Um, it was when we had a conversation together about this last week, there was something really profound that we were talking about, which was burnout doesn't mean you're tired. It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean you're physically tired either. Burnout is a much deeper state. And so many people, I'm sure this happens to you as well. So many people ask you, what does this mean? What does healing mean? What does burnout mean? And the most simplified way that I can kind of describe burnout is to be led by fear. And when you're led by fear, that doesn't necessarily mean throughout the day you're even going to feel tired. You're being so pushed with fear that I've got to get A done, I've got to get B done, I've got to get C done, and it just doesn't allow you to see what's, or better yet, feel what's happening underneath it all. And that was really, really interesting. We talked about, again, myself as well. uh, Thankfully, I wasn't hospitalized, but I remember that I was one of the biggest things that gets you is how unconscious you are in the moment of what you're doing. And this is someone like myself that teaches this stuff and is always constantly talking about self-awareness. One of the main messages that I try and give out into the world is it doesn't matter how self-aware you are. You don't know what you don't know. And you don't know what you are unaware of until you are aware of it. And for the longest time, the thing that drove me to so much burnout was being completely unconscious of what was pushing me towards burnout. And I remember as soon as I realized, wow, I'm not even aware what's happening right now. I'm being pushed so far into this thing. It was like finding the answer for me. I don't know if
Yeah,
it was a similar kind of thing for yourself.
absolutely. And it's fear, but not in the anxious. You can be super confident and be in burnout, right?
Yeah.
Or you at least appear to the rest of the world as you've got all of your stuff together and you're confident and everything's going smooth. But that burnout is brewing underneath for you, that fear of, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And it's often tied to some version of definition of success that we've either subscribed to or it's been prescribed to us. And it's a journey of self awareness. You don't just become self aware, you don't just become confident. It's not a destination. And so, even the most capable individuals can have self doubt, can have these things. But where you push yourself to burnout is when that is occupying those 95% of subconscious thoughts that we have. And it's getting into that top 5% of you got to do this, you got to do that, the shouldas, couldas, you got to do's. And when you're driven by that every day without a pause, you get to a place of numbness. You're not feeling it anymore. You're just moving through all of it. So you're missing the experience. And I would dare say you're not actually living.
Yeah, no, you're really not because I was, you're living in survival. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever you're living in survival, you can't find your joy, you can't find your peace. I always give the example of, we live in the world that we do today, and it's phenomenal. The fact that we've got the internet is phenomenal. We wouldn't be able to do this, and the people that are listening now wouldn't be able to hear us. We've got the medical uh, section of society that's beautiful, saves lives. We've got roads, cars, planes, houses the way they are, but we've not evolved to this. This is what we've created. We're not biologically evolved to this world, and the world that we are evolved to is when we look at the world that we are evolved to, it gives you a clearer picture of how you work as an emotional being. So, for example, if I'm walking down a path and on the right I see a juicy apple and I go, oh, juicy apple, I'm able to feel joy about that excitement, like, oh, this is great. So I walk up to get that juicy apple, and then on the left there are rustling in the bushes and could be an animal. So in that moment, my focus and attention is there, and I am fearful of my life. So I'm in survival mode and I'm catastrophizing about what it could be. It might be a lion, it might be a tiger. And if they, it might be a wolf. And if they jump out, then what am I going to do? Well, I've got my knife. I could go around here. I could, stab him here. I can move around. If the wolf tries to jump me and charge me, I can run away. What can I do? In that moment of living in that survival state, I cannot be excited about the juicy apple.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a chance where I can go, oh, I'm gonna look back at that apple and try and be really excited about that. And that's what burnout is. When you're living in such survival and unconscious just continuously going, you're not going to be able to find the joys of life, the things that give you the energy, the things that give you the joy, um, everything that you're looking for and trying to essentially push forward what your burnout is trying to do is I'm going to try and if I complete A, B, and C, then I can find joy. If I do this, that, and it's kind of like this Trojan horse thing where it's pushing you further to try and just finish this, or I just need to get to next week. I just need to finish these reports, and I just need to get the team to do this, and if I do that, then everything's going to be okay. And that's not what burnout is, and that's not the communication of burnout. It's more of a communication that you are living in survival. And the only reason you're essentially living in survival is because of the unconscious, mainly because of the unconscious thoughts that you're having. And I really love what you said about success as well, because that's like the other side of it. I'm pushing myself to achieve A, B, and C, or X, Y, and Z, so that I can. And that's kind of the success that I'm aiming for. But again, if I'm living in survival, I, I will never achieve it. I'll never get to my success. I need to understand why I'm living in survival so I can enjoy that juicy apple again.
Because we're always focusing on a destination when I get to there. And the reality is, our reality is just this moment. We can make up all those other stories. And unfortunately, we as humans make up the stories about all the things that are going to go wrong or not happen versus all the things that are going to go right, or even focusing on what is right now and the I'm enough. I didn't learn I'm enough for where I am right now until way too late in life. I'm a proud 60-year-old woman here, and if I could talk to my younger self, was I don't have to prove to everyone else. In fact, they're all looking at their own things, right? And yes, in corporate world, you've got a boss and they're going to do a performance review. And yes, there is some type of measurement. So anybody saying to me, well, that's not reality. My boss is going to do my performance review if they're working in a job and not working for themselves. But even for those that work for themselves, this judgment of what is good enough and what does success look like? And when I get that, I'll be happy. It's not a destination. Success is a state. Joy is a state. It's not you become happy, you are happy.
I think the best quote I've heard about happiness, which is essentially the extension to success, was by Tony Robbins. And I honestly haven't heard a quote that describes happiness as much as this, which, and I don't want to butcher it, but essentially he says, when your life's outcomes matches your expectations, you're happy. If they don't match your expectations, you're not happy. If they exceed your expectations, you're really, really happy. So, and that's what success kind of extends to as well. If what is my expectation in what I'm trying to do, or even in life, that is putting me where I am, which is either pushing me to keep going forward in this fear based way, or just I'm not fulfilled enough, or what is it? What is the expectation that I have versus my circumstances? This is why a lot of people always look back and go, "Oh yeah, I realized that when I look back in that moment when I was trying to push so far forward, I had all of these things that I wanted anyway." And what burnout does as well, which what I've realized is it because of this, um, let's say, kind of version of success that we either adopt or we believe it is because that's what other people expect or say that is true. I'm trying to achieve something that I actually don't even align with. Most of my
Mm-hmm.
clients that I help with burnout, we dig down and we get to that place. Well, why are we trying to do what we're trying to do? Why are we pushing ourselves the way we are? Why is it all fear led? Because I'm trying to achieve this thing. Okay, is that what you want? No. It's like, so why are you trying? And it kind of just it's a mind blowing moment in that moment. Oh, what is important to me? Well, my family is important to me. My family's health, spending time with them, and then they realize that they're pushing so hard to this thing, which is actually taking them away from what's important to them. And
Yes.
this is what
It's that lack
this
of
is what
alignment.
exactly that's the perfect way to put it. A lack of alignment. If you were aligned with your truth, and you would be able to go towards your truth. And I know this kind of sounds like very black and white. There's a lot of gray areas in it, and it requires the exploration for sure. Um, but once most people understand, oh, I'm not living in alignment with my truth to try and achieve something that I believe is going to get me X, Y, and Z. And more often than not, they realize that, oh no, the thing that's going to get me X, Y, and Z is actually over here. It's not looking that way at all.
Yeah, it's this you hit the nail on the head in the aspect of I'm trying to achieve in the meeting of the expectations. Who set those expectations? Are they truly your expectations? And are there any other expectations that you hope for, but you just don't put it out there because, oh, I'm not supposed to feel that way? And so it's the real looking glass of the rules that you're living your life by, right? And I came from a generation, and my parents were boomers, and they were like, you go to school, you then go work, and then you retire. And I was at a conference, and a alpha generation person made a quote about uh, my generation and the boomers, and this prescription of you go to school for 20 years, you work for 40, maybe 50 years, and then you live for 10. And I want to live for all of them. And I'm like, well, I want to live for all of them too, right? So this rule book of our life and the homilies and the things that we're told we're supposed to do, when you achieve the things you're supposed to do and it still doesn't feel right, you still feel off. You
Mm.
are not finding any joy in it. I use a perfect example of when I made it to an executive level at T-Mobile. I went out and I bought a Mercedes car. It is my least favorite car I've ever had in my life. It was expensive, it was clunky, it wasn't even comfortable. And, it it was but that's the symbol of I've made it, right? In success. And I would bitch and moan every time I had to take that car in to get something done to it. And when I got rid of that car, and I got myself a nice Subaru here in the States that I could four-wheel drive with, and it put up with all kinds of stuff, and my kid could be in the car just safe. Nothing wrong with a Mercedes, don't get me wrong. But it was this, I'm supposed to have that because I'm in this level of position and I'm supposed to do that. When I got it, yeah, I got it. I could check off one more thing, but it didn't make me happy. It didn't bring me joy. I actually resented it more than I enjoyed it. And so when we look at the things that are in our life and we get to the point of burnout, we generally are on autopilot, living with fear, to your point, and we're not living by our own rules that we've made up for ourselves as adults. We're generally
Mm.
taking the rules of whoever else is an influence in our life, and we're not truly autonomous in our own life and thinking for ourselves. And that's where that inner work of, to your point, what do you really want? Yeah, that magic wand, what do you want? And if we wake up every day and we're having the same thoughts that we had yesterday, unless we are able to shift our thinking, we're going to just keep thinking those same thoughts every day, is what the science tells us. And we've got to ask those questions. We don't have to like unpack everything from a therapeutic perspective. I believe that is beneficial. But even just the simple question of, what do I want?
Mm.
And
That's a big one.
and what is most important to me? And for me, in 2017, when I was exhausted mentally, physically, energetically, spiritually, I was just exhausted and at the bottom of the well, if you will, across the board. And I had a teenage son that I wanted to be there for. That became part of my why. If I couldn't show him a way to live life in a way that was filled with purpose and fulfillment and happiness, if I couldn't walk that walk,
Mm.
how could I help him at a crucial moment in his journey? And so that was my catalyst. And then it eventually became the catalyst for me to have the greatest love story of my life, which was getting to know myself and learning to love myself so I could deeper love those around me.
I had the same experience as well with my child, and it is something that really helped my drive into being on a very similar path of I have to figure this out. And I didn't have a lot of self-love at all at the beginning, but the love that I had for him is what kind of pushed me towards finding the love that now I have for myself, which spiritually, love for him is the love for myself is a part of me. So it's kind of like a cool little thing Um, Going back to success is really, really important because there are so many different layers of success. There's the top layer of what I think that I want. I want the big house. I want the fancy car. I want so much. I want the recognition, the status. But realistically, your success and the reason that you want it, there's always the core reasons. And I always give the analogy of like a garden analogy. It's the root of the weed. Whereas, like, the first reasons of why we say, I want anything is kind of like the branch. So, if I cut the branch off, another branch will grow. So, if I'm going, okay, I want success and I want the car, or I get the car that's cutting a branch, another branch will grow. Well, now I need the house, get the house, cut the branch, another branch will go. Well, now you're never gonna find success and find what you're looking for because you've never understood the underlying reason of why you want that success. And for me, it was one of the biggest releases and kind of healing sessions when I truly figured out what was driving me, what my underlining core root reason of success was. And pretty much 99% of the people that I've worked with have a very similar kind of uh, reason, which is, what does the success represent? The success, if I make it, if I get that car, get that house, I've got that family that everyone is jealous of, I've going around and I'm on social media and people look at me and I'm famous and I'm desired, I'm wanted. All of that is meeting the unmet needs that I have within myself. Because if I get these things, then it means that I'm good enough. It means I'm desirable. It means that I am worthy. And I dug deeper and deeper and deeper. And there was this understanding that from my childhood, there was I was the scapegoat, I was the middle child, and I grew up in an anxious attachment as well. So there was an astronomical amount of self abandonment in order to get something. Well, that thing was love, acceptance, appreciation, respect, all of that together. So there'd be a huge self abandonment because I'm trying to seem like I am something in order to be loved. I'm trying to seem like I am worthy, like I am good enough. I am able to, I am a desirable person. So my attempts of pushing so hard to succeed was so that other people could see that I am enough. Not even me, other people. So
Mhm.
it wasn't even, I need to do this for me. My prison, that I call it, within myself was this continuous circulation of trying to prove myself with my achievements, or better yet, my greatness, so that other people will think I am good enough. And then when I went so deep in one session and I saw it, I saw it was like this
Arian,
oval
I lost all
shape.
your audio for the last 30 seconds.
Oh, I don't know if what was the last thing I said that you
It
heard?
was that I heard it was more where you were going into the definition there. So yeah, it completely and I talked and I don't think you heard anything either, so I don't know what was caught.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start from I can start from okay. So I'll start from what my so my let's do a pause first. And I realized when going as deep as I could that my success was also what I was trying to be free. I was trying to get my freedom from what I call my jail inside, which was trying to prove to the world and to everyone that I am good enough so that I would be loved, so that I would be accepted. Because other people's perception is what was very, very unsafe to me. So it wasn't even I had to achieve this, which um, would prove to me that I'm worthy enough, is I had to achieve this so it will make other people think that I am good enough because that's what they need. They need to see me do this, which will then make them realize that I am good enough. So it wasn't even it was just a prison of other people's perception. And because so many people have different perceptions, I'm trying to achieve so many different things and trying to achieve this status and level where I think all of them will then think that I am good enough. But it doesn't matter how much I achieved, how successful I was in it, any sense of the word. It doesn't matter because it was all the internal prison. And when I realized that, and when I went and I showed this part of myself that it is okay and everything's all right, there was there was this understanding that I had that I was like, okay, once I achieve this or whatever this success looks like, I know that I'm gonna break down and cry, and I'm gonna feel that, oh, I did it. I actually did it. And in that
Mhm.
moment, I actually broke down and cried and felt like that. I felt that I actually did it. And I realized like that I actually did it was breaking out of this internal prison. It had nothing to do with anything external of me. It had nothing to do with me achieving getting a really cool car or flying around the world and talking on stage or anything like this. And that essentially is my burnout journey kind of led me to that, led me to freedom through success. So I found my freedom, which is what I was trying to get from this clouded version of success that I adopted through society and other people, which is what took me out of alignment and living and pushing forward with fear, which is what caused me to burn out.
Yeah, and this is where I don't prescribe the way you're describing it, even is I don't prescribe to the fake it till you make it, because what you're doing is when we don't believe it ourselves, we are constantly faking it for everyone else. We're trying to make it look like we're wearing the mask and we're performing like actors in our own life rather than the, main character of our own life. Comes from this lack of clarity of what do I really want? What do I not need, but what do I want? How do I want to be? And it was introduced to me. I know it went kind of viral on TikTok with Steve Harvey, but have you heard of the 300 wants challenge? And this,
No.
the concept of you write out 300 items that of things that you desire. And not just things like I want to be more eloquent or whatever it is, but you have to list out and write out I want X and I want a happier world. I want my son to be healthy. And most of us as humans get to about 60 and we stop because we're like, I can't think of anything else. And I've had a few of my clients do it. And it was an exercise that was given to me back in 2017 of keep writing and come back to it. And what's interesting is once I pushed through and I got the 300, I started seeing themes. There was like things that aligned with my values, things that actually made sense. Because once I got past 60, I wasn't writing down the things that were, quote, prescribed to me that I'm supposed to want, right? I want health, wealth, and happiness, yes. But I got into things of how I wanted to show up in the world, the impact and what I'd want to leave as a legacy, what I would hope I would show up as a mother of my child when he's grown, and how I would have a relationship then. And so when we start getting clarity of what do I really want, we can then describe what is success in our lives.
Mm.
And when we think we need something else, we get to the heart of, do I really need that? Am I okay without it? And if the answer is, yeah, I'm okay without it, nice to have it. But, and that clarity is what's different for me than the Andrea of 2017, is that we talk about alignment and a lot of folks go, okay, but we have to have that clarity. What do we want in the first place? And if most humans, not just us as individuals, get to 60 and go, I don't know what else. And yet maybe we just keep jotting things down, and maybe some things get repetitive because part of the exercise is you don't look back to what you wrote on number 47 when you're at like 297 and trying to get to that 300. But when we can get the clarity of what do I really want and put a voice to it, so many people don't state what they want out of that fear. And so when we can start getting clear on what we want, that lets us be clear on what we don't want in our life. And
Mm.
I want the healthy things. If we focus on, what you put your attention to is where the energy flows and where it goes. So if we can get clear about what we want, we can appease the fears of everything that we don't want and help shift our focus. And so for me, when I start focusing too much on something that I'm fearful about, and I'm creating those stories of, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? I get back to, well, what do I really want to happen? And keeping myself course corrected, because I almost went into burnout again in 2021. And that's that prison that you're talking about. We make it for ourselves, and we make choices of what other environments we're in. And I made some choices about the environments I was in at that point and shifted um, to align to my desires, what I want in life. But if you're not clear on it, you're never going to get to that alignment because you haven't staked where the boundaries should be in your life.
And that's a big one, boundaries, to figure out what you want and don't want. And it extends to every corner of your existence. Um, I love that. I love writing down 300 things of what you want. I've not tried that yet, but trust me, after this call, I'm definitely going to be giving that a go. I just love the idea that it forces you to really think, like really, really think. That, like you said, I think I could, I might even struggle for 60, but still, I think I'll easily hit 60. But to hit 300 is going to be really, really interesting. You know, the concept of wanting has been coming up recently, and in the mentorship program call that I had last week, this was a theme and a topic, and it's really interesting to me because I brought up the idea of what does it even mean to want something? What does that even look like? Because a lot of people kind of go, "Oh, I want this thing." That means that I have to have it. If I want it and I have it, then I'm happy. But I wanting something isn't that, and it's not even that simple. For example, and we're talking about burnout again here. So the reason I went into burnout and the reason I was so misaligned is for my business and what I do. I actually started targeting a completely different target audience that was a lot more, let's say, 3D oriented. That means that I wasn't really talking about spirituality anymore. I wasn't talking about manifestation, reality, or anything like this. I was very much focused on the 3D and mindset stuff. And I kind of stepped out of the role of the spiritual teacher that I am. That was the huge misalignment. And the reason that I did that was because I wanted success in that field. What does success look like? Success looks like, uh, so many people on the mentorship program hitting a certain amount of revenue monthly, having a certain amount of calls, having a certain amount of team. And that's what I wanted. And the reason why I wanted that wasn't only just for the success, but it was more because I understood, okay, from there, I can now grow onto the next level, the next stage of what I'm trying to do in my business. But now going through what I've gone through, if I would have succeeded in that, I wouldn't understand burnout the way that I do.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have found my true success or what success means to me. I wouldn't have found my freedom. I'd still be in that prison within myself. And now, stood here, looking back, what did I want from doing that or trying to get that success? I wanted freedom, which is the revenue. I wanted success, and I wanted to just grow my business. I'm doing that now in a much healthier, more aligned way. That's what I wanted. But back then, it's still what I wanted, and it didn't look like the way that I thought it should look. So the whole concept of wanting is I want something, and I believe that it should look like this. Otherwise, I'm defining it as not having the thing that I want. So when you want something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look like how you think it should look like. Not even going to how you think it should look like. I've had people that I work with that not my clients, but people in my business that have come on, left, and oh my God, is this should it shouldn't look like this. It should look like people are here, they're staying, they're working, they're doing what they do. Maybe that's not what I want. Maybe what I
Mhm.
want looks completely different. And this
That
is where,
definition,
again,
I was going to just interject that definition though of I need to do this in order to grow. You were looking like many of us at somebody else's model, how they got there, the journey and the path that they had. And at one point, Arian, you said, because I would feel happy because it's one thing it can look like all those things, but if it's not feeling like that, right? We generally want something in order to feel something. And we as humans, we try to split ourselves. And like, I have so many clients, especially in the corporate world, that are like, well, that's personal, that's professional. And I've just got a news flash for you. Your nervous system doesn't know that. Your emotions doesn't know that. It's just one you, right? All the way down your spinal cord and your vagus nerves and your central nervous system. So when we're trying to feel something and we have this idea of what it should look like, and even when the picture does look like that, and the feeling's still not there, we've gotten away from what do we really want. And so when we write that sentence of, I want success in order to feel blank, in order to X, that part of it and getting the themes and the clarity of, I want to feel freedom. I want to feel alignment. I want to feel connected. I want to feel in community. The how we get there is where we often get so caught up in the wants versus that ultimate feeling that we're trying to achieve. And our feelings are our own. We have our own little personal blueprint of what feelings are because all of our experiences that brought us here. And so that desire, that want, that definition, is it your own? Are you looking at how somebody else got there? And just because it worked for them, or you think it worked for them, because you don't know, you got to ask the question, how do you feel? Do you feel successful? You look successful, but do you feel successful? That just might not work for
Yeah,
you.
that's a huge one. That's a big one to is do you feel successful? And you're right. Everything we do is because of the way it makes us feel. It's success in itself. Obviously, success for me is different to success for you. It's different to success from everyone else. But to define your success, to truly, and I mean underlining reasons of defining your success is going to be huge. And I think this is where trust comes in as well. If it if I need it to look a certain way, but it doesn't look that way on my path of trying to achieve X, Y, and Z, what do I do? And this is where trust comes in. And I've spoken about this a few times, but the whole concept of trust, has so much in it mechanically in terms of how reality is manifesting for you. Trust essentially just opens a lot more paths. And just before the call, actually, we were talking about, I heard Bashar talk about trust, and he said it in the most perfect way, which is, you're already trusting. Well, I need to learn how to trust. No, you don't. You're already trusting that it won't work. So you get to choose your trust. You're either going to trust that it works or trust that it doesn't. If you can't take yourself away from trusting that it doesn't, there's the exploration, that understanding of what you need there. I thought that was phenomenal. Like, honestly, that one stuck with me for so long. That one, but it also kind of starts venturing into surrender. How can I surrender? Especially if you're in burnout, surrender feels like the scariest thing. And that's the core of it. The core of, well, if I'm being led by fear because of this misalignment and I'm trying to achieve this thing that I want, that I think that it needs to look like this, but that's not the case. I need to be able to surrender and I need trust to be able to do that. All of these things work together, and they're a huge part of how you would get out of burnout, whether we're being kind of very mindsetty or whether we're talking spiritually. The reason you need to surrender is because the reason we're pushing so hard in the burnout is what I want is to create X reality, reality X. So I want to achieve all of these things to create this. And we believe that's the driving factor. We believe that the driving factor is because I want to create this reality, but it's not. The driving factor is actually the opposite. It's because I'm trying to avoid the opposite of this reality. So, for example, if I need to hit these deadlines or I need to be able to achieve uh, my wealth or getting this car, getting this house in order to be seen as worthy enough. I'm actually what's pushing me and what's driving me is the reality that I haven't achieved it, is the reality that I can't get the car, I can't get the house, I can't hit these deadline days. So the surrender is to get to a place where if that undesirable reality is what you're experiencing, that that's okay. That you're going to be able to come out of that. You're going to be able to be there for yourself. You're going to be able to still move forward, and all life and the world and everything is not going to end. That's where, again, that's the trust to that surrender. So what I found is that it all interlinks with each other in order to be able to get out of burnout, sorry.
Yeah, and in burnout, part of what we're surrendering is our judgments. If I don't do X, and I need this, and if I don't have this, it's a judgment statement. I haven't met success. And then you have to ask, okay, by whose definition? And is it you haven't achieved it and you won't ever? Or is it I haven't achieved it yet? At least in the English language, the word yet is this opportunity of hope and possibility. And it might be that you haven't found the path that works right for you yet. And your path is going to be just a bit different. And are you taking the learnings of the things that you've tried that haven't gotten you there yet? And this is where we talk about the growth mindset, right? We're open to things. There is no success, there is no achievement without failures. Failures are there to teach us. But failure isn't a bottomless pit. It's actually something that we can step on to get to the next level of whatever we need to learn. And if we stayed stagnant and didn't even try to begin with, then that's more of a great failure because the only lesson there is that you didn't try. And so if you can come back in the burnout cycle, if you will, and really be able to say, okay, I got myself to this state, and how am I wanting to get out of this? And how am I going to catch myself? What are the things that I do? And in my experience, it was the judgments I put on myself, the rule book of what success looks like, and questions that I keep in alignment to keep myself in alignment are things such as, who am I doing this for? What am I trying to achieve? Will this actually get me what I think I want? Does it help or hurt myself, those that I love and care about, the world at large? And what happens if I don't do this? And if I can go through those reasonings and that self-talk, we have the inner critic, we can have some really poor dialogue with ourselves. But if we start getting into a habit where we start questioning and having a great conversation with ourselves, that will help us to stay out of burnout. It's also going to help us get real clarity of how we're showing up in the world. Because the other thing I found about burnout, Arian, is that I'm so focused on the future that I'm missing out on the present.
That's huge.
And so another question is, can I be present? And am I enjoying or experiencing? It doesn't always have to be about joy, but am I experiencing here to its fullest?
Those are really good questions. And that is like the perfect pattern interrupt of the unconscious pattern of burnout. Because that's what brings you to that surrender as well. Those are really, really good questions. I love them. One of the things that I always ask people, and I promise you when I say this, 100% of the response has been the same. And the question that I ask is, what's the opposite of success? And everyone always says failure. Nope. What do you mean? Like, failure is actually on the path of succeeding. You you can never succeed anything without failing. Ever. In any sense of the word. Ever.
Hmm.
And once they realize that, that's when the relationship with failure completely changes. The way I see it, the opposite of success, like you said, you're talking about trying, is to stop trying. The only, but then there's a lot of people will go, well, okay, well, what if I'm trying to achieve being this kind of in this position at work or this title, and then that doesn't happen? My reality doesn't even allow that to happen because my path is to go this way instead. So isn't that like a failure? It's like, no, because again, you have to understand the underlying reason. What is it? What feeling am I looking for? Or what belief am I trying to, what unmet need am I trying to meet? What title, what is the reason I want that title? What is the underlying reason? And that's what it is. So it's not the actual title or position. It's what I will feel, how I will see myself, what meanings I give to myself, what beliefs I hold. That is the underlying reason. So on my path to and if I, let's say, if I get that position, then I will feel like I'm good enough. So
Hmm.
I try and get that position. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And my reality completely just pushes me to this other direction. And then I try and I go down that path. And then I get the position that's actually 1,000 times better than the other position, but it's completely different. It might be even a completely different job. That's the success. The success is kind of going towards the underlining reasons of why I'm trying to get it. It might not even be a different job. It will be doing the inner work. And then from doing the inner work, I achieve that feeling that I've been reaching for internally. I achieve the meanings and beliefs that I've given to myself that I've now changed internally. Now I've succeeded, but along the way I failed. And that is part of it. If I didn't fail along the way, it wouldn't trigger me and bring my awareness to the parts of myself that I needed to integrate and I needed to become aware of in order to succeed in feeling the way that I do now from doing that inner work. So it is part of the process of success. But if I would have stopped trying, if I would have just, I can't do it, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to go backwards, that is the opposite. That's what's going to stop you from succeeding, not failure. Failure is the most important part of the journey to success. The most important.
Absolutely. And getting clear on what we want and why we want it. You used the example of the title. Part of that is we're associating our identity with it, right? I've got an identity I want to achieve of success and a successful entrepreneur, a successful corporate employee, whatever that might be. And when we don't achieve it or we don't lose it, we feel like we're losing part of our identity. And I see this in many of my clients as they transition either from one role to another. Maybe they work in corporate, they're now going out as entrepreneurs, or maybe even in retirement, because I coach at so many different generational levels. But when we tie our identity to things that we believe make it look like we have something or make us look like some type of person, that is part of what puts you into that spiral of burnout, this limiting belief that I'm not good enough and it, or a title is what defines me. And I went through that when I left corporate. It was like, what do I call myself now? Right. Or, what do you do? The good old question folks ask. And now when folks say, introduce yourself like we did at the top of our time together today, the first thing I just want to say is I am. Simple as that. I am. And I am many things. And what you see on the surface is not necessarily everything. You and I know this because we've talked about it, but most folks see me and I'm like look like a corporate buttoned up person, but I'm also a Reiki practitioner, a meditation teacher. I'm a lavender farmer. I drive a tractor on occasion on my farm. But I also speak on corporate stages. So if I tie my identity to any of those things or those experiences, then I myself am not being honest with who I am. And those that interact with me, whether it's, after a speaking engagement or versus my neighbor seeing me, working out in my lavender field, they represent different people, but it's still all just me.
Mm.
And the 2017 Andrea that was so sick with burnout and, I was close to 70 pounds heavier than I am right now. I couldn't even just breathe properly walking up the stairs. So I had the physical implications, which not everyone has, but I took burnout to an extreme where I didn't look at me and I didn't get to know me. But when we get clear on our identity and what we want and our values, it's very trite, perhaps, just to say that when we get clear on all of these things, because the journey of getting clear on them. But clarity is just a moment. I have self-awareness now at 60. I'm going to have more self-awareness at hopefully my dad's 91. I'm hopefully going to be around for that on this planet. But clarity is just where I'm at right now. And there's a great book out called The Four Agreements that I've used in my life and many others. But the fourth agreement is do your best. It's not be the best. It's not about perfection, but it's just doing your best. And if you can land every day with your head on the pillow and say, today I did my best, it's a good day.
Mm. That's really, really good. And that's actually a whole talking point in itself, I think, what the best means, because that's one of the reasons I went into burnout. I my my perception of best was, well, I can physically do more. I could I could not relax with my family and I could just go back into the office and keep working 18-hour days. But that's what was really, really killing me as well at the same time. So that kind of made me uh, go even deeper and look even deeper. Um, Andrea, I think we can kind of call it here. The conversation has been amazing. It's been beautiful. And I hope it's really helped everyone that's been listening. We will do more episodes with each other. To be honest with you, we've got a shared document of so many topics of what we want to talk about and what value we want to give to everyone that's listening. We do actually also have a PDF for you guys to download. This is 5 hidden blocks keeping leaders from their full potential. This is a PDF that we've put together, and we are actually going to be doing a lot more work together, creating a lot more content together. Honestly, it just comes from the conversations we have, and there's always so much value in them that one day we just said, we've really got to just press record as we have these conversations because the amount of value that comes out of them is astronomical. So we will definitely do this together. Again, make sure that you are subscribed, make sure that you have the notifications on to be able to know whenever a new episode comes out. Andrea, I want to thank you so much for joining me in this one, and we will definitely do another one together for sure.
Oh, Arian, you and I can can talk forever. I know, just in our limited time in getting to know each other, it's the kindred spirits. And like I said, if we can share from our experiences and some of the tips and tricks, if you will, of how we can
Mm.
accelerate for others so that they can learn through our scars, if you will, not our wounds, but mentorship is truly in learning from somebody else's experience. And we've gotten through it. And we've learned how to manage it and have that emotional awareness. And it's still a journey for both you and I. The more we can share with others, so that they can have a little less of maybe the down and the troughs that you and I went through, um, then we're just doing a little bit more good in the world, my friend. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
it's it's why we do what we do. It's what brings us life. Um, Amazing. Thank you. And again, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.